Mingla and welcome to My Radio's Myanmar Today. I'm Michelle with the recent news and reports from around Myanmar. Bomo got the latest report on Myanmar record 100 COVID-19 confirmed cases within 24 hours. Swayman will give us all the details on sounding limit extension leads to better freight transport in Yangon River. And My Radio News team also has the story on Mandalay highway bus lines continue to transport service. Piotr Ridu, Mitet and Mo have the full story on demand for beans stable, but prices decrease. All of these reports will be coming up on Myanmar Today. But for now, let's take a look at what's happening in local news. Union Minister for Information Dr. Pimiet presided over the meeting to develop the English language Myanmar International TV channel on Monday. The meeting was held at Myanmar Radio and Television Office on P Road in Yangon. Director General of MRTV, Wu Ye-nai, explained the history of MITV and the ongoing processes. Acting Deputy Director General Wu Zeya explained the organization of MITV, its exports and staff members, budget requirements, and its future plans. Senior Executive Director Dr. Deng Dan-u presented the broadcast of English language Myanmar International Radio Channel, jointly broadcast by MRTV and Sri Lankan Media Company Limited. In response to the discussions, Union Minister Dr. Pimiet advised to accelerate cooperation in development of programs, to report the future joint plans, to broadcast preparations for free and fair multi-party general elections this year, and control measures against COVID-19, to produce interesting programs in line with the primary objective of MITV, and to attract more viewers to the channel. The MRTV and Sri Lankan Company began broadcasting the MIR-FM radio in Yangon, Naypyidaw, and Mandalay on 1st February 2018, and it can be listened on the mobile application, Facebook, and website of MIR. Yangon Region Chief Minister Wu Pyo-min-they met with officials to discuss placing COVID-19 positive patients in Medical Center PAMG of the Central Institute of Civil Service CICS Lower Myanmar in Legu Township, Yangon North District. The meeting was held at CICS Lower Myanmar on Monday evening. At the meeting, Yangon Region Chief Minister Wu Pyo-min-they discussed about a few numbers of medical staff in Rakhine State, high numbers of infections in the state, and plans to transport the patients from Rakhine State to Yangon by air for giving treatments at the medical center PAMG, providing more health staffs and plans to coordinate with providing more doctors from Damodar for COVID-19 response. The meeting was attended by about 30 participants, including Yangon Region Government, Head of Yangon Region Public Health Department, the Township Administrator, and the Township COVID-19 Prevention, Control and Treatment Work Committee members. The 20th relief flight of Myanmar Airways Internationals landed at the Yangon International Airport in the evening of 1st September, bringing back a total of 102 Myanmar citizens who were stranded in foreign countries. Among them, 52 persons were from South Korea, 1 person from Switzerland, 2 from Belgium, 3 from Brazil, 3 from Canada, 3 from France, 3 from Indonesia, 4 from the Great Britain, 4 from Italy, 3 from Norway, and 2 from South Africa, and 22 from the U.S. The Ministry of Labor, Immigration and Population, the Ministry of Health and Sports, and the local officials held the returnees for health inspections and arranged for a 21-day quarantine. To bring back the Myanmar citizens who were stranded in foreign countries by relief flights and charter flights, in accordance with the instructions from National Level Central Committee on Prevention and Control of COVID-19. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs cooperated with the relevant ministries and Myanmar embassies from respective countries and brought back a total of 13,172 citizens to date. The Gauteng District Information and Public Relations Department and the Department of Education jointly organized a fitness dance program through online. The fitness dance was presented by students from Basic Education High School branch in Godao, and the program was uploaded through the social media page of Godao District Public Library. The program is aimed to give health awareness for people during COVID-19 period and to practice physical exercise while staying at homes. The Godao District Public Library also conducts promoting reading habits and painting among the children to spend the time effectively during COVID-19 period. That's all with the local news. And now we'll move on to our first report. The Ministry of Health and Sports reported 95 new COVID-19 cases at 8 p.m. on 31st August, and 5 more new cases were reported at 8 a.m. on 1st September. And one economy said that the highest number of cases was be announced by MOHS. According to the data released from the Ministry of Health and Sports, the total number of COVID-19 cases in the country has risen to 887 with 6 deaths and 354 recoveries. Let's have a detailed report.
The Ministry of Health and Sports reported 95 new COVID-19 cases at 8 p.m. on 31st August, and 5 more new cases were reported at 8 a.m. on 1st September. Starting from 23rd March, when the first COVID-19 confirmed cases were found within the country, to till now, this is the highest number of the cases to be announced by the Ministry of Health and Sports within 24 hours. Dr. Situ Lin, specialist from the Yangon Workers Hospital, spoke to MI Radio about the current infected cases in the country.
If the infections increase day by day with this infection rate, all we have to do is to prevent ourselves as much as we can. In our country, we only have 6 deaths while all the cases are over 800. The virus has transformed to mutation, and the infections are faster. We cannot say the death rate can be stable in the 6 deaths. By comparing to the other Southeast Asian countries, Myanmar has reached the medium. People suffered a lot in their lives, not only economically, but also socially from this disease. People need to do is to follow the rules from the Ministry of Health and Sports.
All the new confirmed cases are from the Rakhine State, Yangon, Mandalay, Naypyidaw, Bago and Magwe regions. On 29 August, the Ministry of Health and Sports also reported 77 COVID-19 infected cases, which are the second highest infection rate since the first cases were detected on the 23rd March. According to the data in the country, it took 152 days from the first case to reach the 400 cases in the country. But in these days, it only took 10 days to reach 800 cases from 401 cases. Among all those cases, 6.47% of the cases are from the close contacts with the infected patients. 1.33% is from the people who are being monitored as suspected patients, and 0.17% is from the people who enter the quarantine centers. From 16 August to 31st August, there are a total of 345 COVID-19 cases in the Rakhine State, and most of the cases are in the Sidri Township. Not only Yangon, but also the other regions and states reported new COVID-19 cases, which can be also regarded as the locally transmitted cases. Uwang Jojo, Pidulodo representative from Flying Township, spoke to MI Radio that the people should be alerted in this situation as the cases are continually rising day by day.
The infection cases in the Southeast Asia are jumping a lot in these days. As we see, all the cases in the country are increasing continually in every single day. In the previous time, we all had stopped all our businesses and works. Many people suffered a lot from these restrictions. But in this time, in my opinion, people used to be familiar with the new normal lifestyle, but they need to be mindful about the infections. Not only have the people in Rakhine, but also the people in every region and state had to prevent the COVID-19 virus.
All the labs in the country, including the National Health Laboratory, Department of the Medical Research, Defense Service General Hospital, Public Health Laboratory in Mandalay and Mandalay, have tested over 157,000 lab tests. There are currently over 7,600 suspected patients who are being monitored under the Ministry of Health and Sports. According to the report from the World Health Organization on 30th August, the Southeast Asia region has showed the highest rise in new cases in the last 7 days, with over 500,000 new cases reported. Around the world, there are over 25 million people afflicted in the 215 countries, with over 17 million recovered, while 857,000 people are dead from this deadly coronavirus, as of the data from the Watermeter Coronavirus Resource Center released on the 1st September.
That's a report on Myanmar records 100 COVID-19 confirmed cases within 24 hours. Myanmar Port Authority said that the sounding limit for the sea-going vessels entering into Yangon River has extended for both outer bar and inner bar. With the explorations of new navigation, it can receive more bigger vessels at the internal ports of Yangon River, benefiting economic growth of the country.
The sounding limitation for the sea-going vessels entering into Yangon River has been extended in accord with the waterway condition, which can be supportive of a better, secure, and smooth freight transport and of the development of the businesses, according to Myanmar Port Authority. The sea-going vessels can enter the Yangon River from outer bar and inner bar when the water level rises, in accord with the sounding limitation based on the width of waterway. In 2020, Myanmar Port Authority allowed the sounding limitation of outer bar to 9.5 meter from the previous depth of water of 9 meter, and that for inner bar to 9.3 meter from 9 meter. The port of Yangon, which was established in the later 18th century, becomes the prior port and important trade gateway of Myanmar, handling over 85% of export and import activities of the country. According to its nature, the seagoing vessels can enter and leave the Yangon River just when the water level rises to the highest, and there are also many huge corners, many shallow water points through the waterway, narrow waterway width, and rough water situation. So only the vessels of 15,000 tons, 167 meter length, and 9 meter soundings are allowed to enter the ports of Yangon River, and the seagoing vessels of 20,000 tons, 200 meter length, and 9 meter soundings have to enter the Dilawa port. The width of waterway of the inner bar for the seagoing vessels has gradually narrowed since 2019 and reached below 100 meters, and it is now only 80 meters wide in 2020. This can be dangerous for larger vessels, so that the authorities concerned instructed to explore the new navigation channel known as Kingsback Channel, and measurement and dragging processes were carried out. Myanmar Harbour Master Operation of Marine Department of Myanmar Port Authority said.
The new waterway navigation is not a natural one. It took time to appear. About 30 years ago, there was a broad sandbank. It disappeared completely in 2015 and 2016, and 1 meter width navigation becomes 3 meter width. Our department is observing the navigation by conducting measurements annually. If the seagoing vessel turns at the corner of the previous waterway, its head side will move to the left and its stern to the right, according to the pivoting point. So the stern moves closer to the shallow water at the mouth of the Pasona Creek, and it can be stranded and it is dangerous. So we explored the new navigation channel. Previously, it was difficult and dangerous to proceed in the dark, but now we provide 24-hour service since the waterway is wide. Depending on the river water rising, the seagoing vessels can run anytime, even at midnight. The time does not matter. But only river water level is important for us to provide service.
For
the new navigation channel, Kings Bank Channel, 3 vessels with the most length and soundings were tested running from 9th to 11 May, after which the meetings were conducted with the pilots and the results were submitted to the Union Minister. The new navigation has been used since 14th of May and the measurements are being taken till now. The results show that the new navigation is safe and now it can provide 24-hour service depending on the river water level regardless of the time. Uzawana, Manager of International Relations and Human Resources Development Department of Myanmar Port Authority, said.
The sounding is crucial for marine industry. Every time 1 meter or sounding limitation is allowed, the country earns millions of dollars every year. So, Myanmar Port Authority is striving to extend the sounding year after year to receive bigger vessels. Later, it was able to receive the vessels of over 30,000 tons for loading and unloading.
The new navigation channel benefits in saving time and finance since it is not necessary to reduce the weight of goods at the outer ports. The vessels do not have to take longer to leave through inner bar. The ports can receive the bigger vessels to earn more. These situations can support the economic growth of the country. Since the new navigation is allowed, there are over 360 vessels entering and leaving the port using the new navigation channel, and most of them are from Singapore and Malaysia.
That's the report on sounding limit extension leads to better freight transport in Yangon River. Stay with us as we bring you more reports on Myanmar Today. Even though COVID-19 has brought most of the businesses to a halt, the transport sector has to keep moving forward. In spite of the transport demand having dropped because of the pandemic, there are goods and commodities still being delivered to parts of the country. There is still rumor of issuing an order to suspend all bus lines, said Go Kai, chairman of disciplinary committee of Mandalay Region Bus Line Highway.
Even though COVID-19 has brought most of the businesses to a halt, the transport sector has to keep moving forward. In spite of the transport demand having dropped because of the pandemic, there are goods and commodities still being delivered to parts of the country. There is still a rumor of issuing an order to suspend all bus lines. Yangon Region Transport Authority said either a request or an order has not been issued from the authorities concerned. Go Kai, chairman of disciplinary committee of Mandalay Region Bus Line Highway, said.
It is not true that Meitila Bus Line was closed according to the announcement of Traffic Control Committee, and it was just a rumor emerged from the public. The rumor is that the highway bus parking would be closed due to the plan of partial lockdown at Magwe on 29th of August. We asked Magwe's disciplinary committee by contacting with telephone whether the regional government had any plans to start announcing partial lockdown. I would like to tell all these are just rumors about the intention of placing on lockdown in Yangon, Mandalay, Magwe, and Meitila highway bus parking.
Although most highway bus lines have been resuming their operations by following social distancing rules at the moment, all Rakhine bus lines have been suspended. So, the incomes from Mandalay Rakhine bus lines have decreased as they have suspended their bus services due to the increasing number of COVID-19 cases and the resurgence of the pandemic. For the time being in Yangon, there are 226 passengers from 19 buses from Rakhine bus lines who are being put into quarantine at the quarantine centers in Line Township. Uang Jolin, chairman of Mandalay Region Bus Line Supervisory Committee Highway, said to My Radio concerning the Mandalay Rakhine Highway bus lines.
There are altogether 9 bus lines from Rakhine State and all bus lines want to suspend their bus services due to the increasing number of COVID-19 cases. But now, only 5 buses have been left for Mandalay Rakhine bus lines, but the incomes decreased during this period. For the prevention, we have already instructed bus lines to make preparations in compliance with the health guidelines released since February.
The highway bus lines have all been suspended starting from April to prevent the spread of the coronavirus disease. Starting from June, express buses operating from 5 terminals in Mandalay, which follow the Ministry of Health and Sports guidelines, have been allowed to operate transport service to other regions and states. U Tintao, driver of Autisa highway bus line, said to MI Radio.
COVID ကာလမှာဘာတွေအခက်အခဲရှိလဲဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့တင်တိုင်းเนี่ยကျွန်တော်တစ်နေ့ကိုအစတော့၄ချိန်ပြေးတာပါ COVID မတိုင်
We ran our buses 4 times a day before the pandemic of COVID-19, but now the outbreak of pandemic, we are only running 2 times a day, accepting the 2 seat for only 1 person. According to the rules of medical health centers, the risk of business for our highway buses is I mentioned above. The goods are accepted to meet the designated load the bus can carry. The plans we have been doing during COVID-19 pandemic are to urge all the passengers who arrive at our bus line to wash their hands with hand sanitizer systematically and to wear face masks. Even though they fail to do then, we will have to guide them to follow the guidelines of MOHs. Our bus line is formed with a total of 13 buses. In addition, I would like to tell our bus line is following the rules and regulations to provide a backday transport service for our customers.
To be able to operate the bus line systematically, the authorities are distributing the announcement letter of rules and regulations to the bus lines to follow the coronavirus preventive measures. The highway bus lines, which are going to run back to Mandalay region, need to conduct disinfectant spraying to the vehicles after every route is finished. Drivers and helpers also need to wear masks and need to obey the instructions when carrying passengers on the bus.
That's a report on Mandalay Highway bus line continued transport service. Myanmar's beans and pulses are mainly exported to neighboring India, followed by China, Indonesia, European countries, and Japan. About 80% exports of beans and pulses goes to India. There was an already granted permissions that 400,000 tons of green grams can be exported to India until 31st of March 2021. But recently, a new policy was announced that green grams from our country would have to be exported to India on 31st of August 2020.
According to the Ministry of Commerce, Myanmar exported 1.15 million tons of various beans and pulses to foreign markets through over 200 domestic trading companies in the current financial year. Myanmar transported over 1.15 million tons of beans and pulses to foreign markets from 1st October 2019 to late June in the current financial year 2019-2020. Fetching over $730 million, according to the figures released by the ministry. Myanmar's beans and pulses are mainly exported to neighboring India, followed by China, Indonesia, European countries, and Japan. About 80% export of beans and pulses go to India. There was an already granted permission that 400,000 tons of green grams can be exported into India until 31st of March 2021. But recently, a new policy was re-announced that green grams from our country would have to be imported into India on 31st of August 2020. U Kin-han, chairman from the Myanmar Culinary Crops Production and Exporting Association, spoke to MI Radio that
this year, we have already exported 540,000 tons till now. They have granted permission to import 400,000 tons of green grams and 200,000 tons of pulses, but 300,000 tons of green grams and pulses have been left to be exported. The license for exporting pulses is not approved, and the previous license for exporting beans will be expired in this August. Myanmar Pulses, Beans and Sesame Seeds Merchants Association has requested to extend the license for exporting, but they haven't responded yet.
Speaking to MI Radio about the challenges in exporting the beans, Dr. Miu, General Secretary of Yangon Region Chambers of Commerce and Industry said,
2020မှာ basic အနေနဲ့တုံးတက်ချက်တော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဘက်မှာတော့
The demand from other countries decreased more than expected due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But the domestic bean market became alive, although there are some difficulties in transportation. As beans are the basic foodstuffs, there is no such loss for this market comparing with other companies. There is one condition that, although the demand is high, the prices decrease because of the fall in the foreign currency. In spite of having the short of time, there is not sufficient amount of beans for export. Therefore, only 100,000 tons of beans can be imported to India. But there is no additional announcement till now from them. It seems like India is observing the weather, and if they get less rain this year, the demand could increase and they may also allow extension of the duration.
Myanmar earns about $800 million from export of beans and pulses every year. For the fiscal year 2020-2021, the country expected to export more beans and pulses in line with the quota notification announced by the Department of Commerce India. U Kin Han, chairman from the Myanmar Culinary Crops Productions and Exporting Association, said,
နိုင်ငံတိုင်းမှာဖြစ်တဲ့ COVID ကြောင့်ကျွန်တော်တို့လည်းကျန်တဲ့နိုင်ငံတွေမှာတကယ်ရှိကျွန်တော်တို့လည်းရှိဒီကနေ့ဒီတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ပြေဖို့နိုင်တယ်
Because of the COVID-19 outbreak, there are some difficulties in transportation system throughout the countries. We cannot export like the previous years. We are working based on the situation in the countries and the climate. We need to overcome this outbreak and maintain the current situation. The current situation is not stable, so we need to give priority in balancing our business sector.
Mung beans is the main export item among beans and pulses, with an estimated earning of some $326 million, followed by green grams with an export value of $198 million, and pigeon peas with $96 million. Myanmar is a major pulse exporting nation among ASEAN countries in growing various kinds of beans and pulses. Myanmar is the biggest exporter of beans and pulses in Asia and ranks second after Canada in the world.
That's a report on demand for beans stable, but prices decrease. And that's all we have for today's report. And it's time to check on some international news here on Myanmar Today. 15 Chinese researchers must leave the U.S. within 1 month after the University of North Texas cut ties with the organizations that fund them, announced the university. The organization's Chinese Scholarship Council has long supported Chinese researchers studying and working with the UNT, as well as people who want to attend Chinese universities. Provided by the Chinese government and Chinese embassies from across the globe, among other sources, the funding is mainly to provide scholarship. The UNT sent emails to scholars on August 26, notifying them that their access to school resources, including emails, servers, and other materials, had been terminated. In addition, they were also not allowed to visit the campus unaccompanied. By Monday evening, an online petition asked the university to revoke the decision had received nearly 4,000 signatures in 3 days. China's General Administration of Customs on Tuesday said China has suspended barley imports from Australian farm CBH Grain Pty Limited. The country's customs authorities said past were found in barley export from the company multiple times, so China has decided to suspend the imports. According to the notice, in order to protect China's agricultural productions and ecological safety. The Customs Authority has notified relevant Australian authorities to improve its export phytosanitary supervision system, strengthen export quarantine, and ensure that the barrel meet China phytosanitary requirements. Democratic U.S. presidential candidate Joe Biden on Monday called for rioters and looters to be prosecuted and slammed President Donald Trump for stoking violence in American cities gripped by protest over police brutality and racial inequality. Biden's speech in battleground state Pennsylvania was his most forceful counter yet to accusations by Trump that he is weak on crime and that leaders in his Democratic Party have lost control over the mass demonstrations that, in some instances, have turned violent. Trump, who's trailed his rival in opinion polls ahead of the November 3rd election, has argued he stands for law and order. The theme featured prominently at his nominating convention last week as he sought to motivate his political base and broaden his support.
The US president tweeted many tweets over the weekend, and on Monday, it was his rival Joe Biden's turn to respond.
Fires are burning, and we have a president who fans the flames rather than fighting the flames. But we must not burn. We have to build. This president long ago forfeited any moral leadership in this country. His failure to call on his own supporters to stop acting as an armed militia in this country shows how weak he is. Does anyone believe there'll be less violence in America if Donald Trump is reelected?
It was obvious that the US president was watching his rival's speech because he tweeted out straight away and also had this to say in his press conference here at the White House.
Mostly seem to blame the police and law enforcement. He went on point after point after point. He even talked about those on the right, but he didn't talk about those on the left. And those on the left are the problem, and Antifa's the problem. The rioters and Joe Biden have a side. They're both on the side of the radical left.
The US president has themed himself as the law and order president, blaming Democrat cities for unlawful demonstrations and violence in a pitch to the suburbs. Joe Biden essentially saying that it's on President Trump's watch and he's fomenting division in this country rather than trying to unite it. So how's this playing out in the election? Both parties have had their conventions. Look at this ABC poll. President Trump, after his convention, well, 31% favorable, 32% favorable, just 1% move. After convention of Joe Biden, 46% favorable, 45% favorable. Really not moving a lot. That suggests that though Joe Biden is in the lead, both conventions, despite the effort by both parties, haven't really moved this country. At the moment, it looks like Donald Trump is behind, but 63 days is a long time, especially in current US politics. Nathan King, CGTN at the White House.
And that's all we have for today. Thank you very much for joining me on Myanmar Today. I'm Michelle. Have a good day. I'll see you next time.